Chef, what do you have?
Got clams and
Whoa,
linguine,
we got plenty of room. We'll make room for this.
and you got 2.5 pound lobster.
Holy cow, Chef. Thank you for coming and joining me
Hey,
today.
my pleasure.
Greatly appreciate it.
And my openness while you were
Absolutely. So I have to tell you about Chef here is that my first time going there, like I said, were my friends that live down in Newport, and I've been 2 or 3 times since then. My poor wife has not been with me yet, so when she found out that I was having you on the show, she made me promise that I would be taking her down very soon. So I'm going to be calling Mark and Sherry and be heading to your spot very soon to check it out again. But you are what we've considered and talked about on the show many times, a legacy restaurant. We were talking before you came on the air, and it's 30 years?
30 plus years. January 13th, 1987.
That's amazing. Congratulations to you.
Well, thank you.
And has it been the same location the entire time?
Same location. We've gotten bigger. We started, I think, 70 seats, and now we're close to 200.
Yeah, you're a good
something,
operation. You're a really good sized operation.
So,
So usually I get this question that people ask, where did the name of the restaurant come from? And I got that question for Chef Josh coming in for talking about revolving door. No one's asked about Scales and Chefs, about how the name has come up, which I think is a good self-explanatory thing. But I would like to talk about the concept of the restaurant and how you got into this. We were talking before is that we have some mutual friends that you grew up with. Joanne Colleen and George. We always get cheers with that sound.
Right.
Anytime that sound happens, we get cheers from the background.
Right.
Thank you, Chef.
there we go.
Beautiful. The aromas in this are absolutely driving me crazy right now.
This is kind of
smells
neat. I'm
amazing.
going to interrupt your.
Absolutely, go right ahead.
This is the only sparkling rosé out of Provence.
Really?
And it's pretty neat.
Look at this.
So,
Cheers.
cheers.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Wow.
That's the end of this discussion. We can sit and join.
Oh, I know, we're done. Sorry, tune out now. We're going to be drinking this from Provence. This is the only sparkling one, really?
Exactly. Yep.
So we're going to talk a little bit about beverage programs and pairing ups and that kind of stuff in a little bit because I can already tell you I would drink this with either of these dishes. But let's talk about what you brought here. Let's talk about the dishes because the aromas are amazing. Obviously, let's go with this one first here. Look at the size.
I'll give you a little bit of background. Is that we
Of course.
lived in Italy for a couple of years. I was in the Merchant Marine, and I was based there for a while. So we got, as a family status, it was called. And we were very involved in the community, place that we lived. The man was a wholesale fish dealer and so on. And they grilled their seafood, which was not really popular here at the time. This is going back in the early, mid-'80s.
Right.
So we brought that concept and that idea. Therefore, we have a grilled lobster because everybody does a steamed lobster,
Yeah.
boiled lobster, and so on.
And you can see
So-
all the char marks right on there.
Exactly. We just feel it's a very hot fire. It allows you to sear in the flavor, keep the moisture in there. And that's a 2.5 pound lobster. And it's a different dimension to lobsters as we grew up with.
I love that. So taste-wise and difference-wise, you're saying the flavor seals in a little bit more as opposed
Right.
to boiling it to do that?
Right, exactly.
I like that. That's excellent. I don't think I've ever had a grilled lobster. Now I'm going to have to try that when I go there.
You are.
All right, know what I'm having for dinner. Okay. And what do we have here next? Because this is the aromas over here.
This is the aromas. This is a classic clam and linguine. We serve it in the pan. We shuck our clams, and one of the things that's difficult with seafood is you don't have it available every day for many reasons, weather restrictions, closings, and so on and so forth. So we're always on the battle to get our clams because we fresh shuck these. They're 99% of the time from Rhode Island.
Excellent.
Seafood from Rhode Island is really way up there.
So one of the things that, and I was talking about how I kind of selected this as a hotspot thing, is one of the things that was, again, phenomenal about your restaurant was that you are, it seems like there's always this evolution because you are sourcing so locally. And the fact that the locals down there, you have a local base. I mean, tourism is great, and you need it, and this year's phenomenal for us to bring the tourists in and everything. But I think there's two parts to it, is that one, you're attracting the locals year-round, people that are enjoying it, people like me that come down there and I eat in the winter more sometimes than I do in the summer. And also the flip side of it is you're really a showcase restaurant for the state because you're sourcing so locally. And you've got these great items coming in. You have a truck, right?
Yes,
Goes around,
yes.
yeah.
We have our own refrigerated truck and all the licenses that go with it, and all the inspections and paperwork. But it allows us to establish connections with the local fishermen, and some of them go back 30 years. And we've got, the fathers have gone on, and now we're dealing with the kids who, was 15 and 16, and now they're late 40s and 50s and
That's
running their
amazing.
companies. So
But
it's kind of fun.
But yeah, and I have to assume that in some cases, I mean, you doing that, you've helped the local economy because you're sourcing from these people that need that support.
It's tough, the fishermen. They need the support. They have all sorts of restrictions. The seafood industry is not a large industry, but locally it's large percentage-wise, and for how it impacts local guys. I mean, it's hard to make a living doing it.
So when you're developing the concept for your menu, then obviously the menu's predominantly seafood.
Solely seafood.
It's
but
solely
vegetarian
yeah,
dishes,
vegetarian
yes.
suppose. So when you're developing this, does the menu fluctuate on a regular basis because of the availability of items, or?
Yeah, I mean, availability really affects a lot of it. We try to stay in an Italian vein as far as the style of cooking, and we, play with that a little bit. We go to the Mediterranean look, and as I say, instead of boiling or steaming a New England style lobster, we stay in a grilled format. But again, it depends on what's there. Years ago, we tried to use the underutilized species, which I don't hear the phrase as much.
Yeah, I don't either, actually.
But it used to be, okay, what's an underutilized species? And then some of the stuff's become mainstream. For instance, monkfish, even squid. I mean, when we first opened, people looked at us and they said, squid? Well, we'll call it calamari. Squid, I use that for bait. I'm not going to eat that. And I said, oh, okay. And then it became as ubiquitous as the blooming orange, basically. Everybody's got calamari now. But
that's the truth. That's the state appetizer, right?
Yeah.
Calamari is the state appetizer. That's a good point. I didn't think about it that way.
Monkfish, again, people used it as a trash fish, and now it's, and probably follows from Europe, because they use a smaller species what they have. Monk has always been available there, and the different names for it, anglerfish and all.
Right. Calamari, obviously, I'm addicted to, I feel like, but monkfish, I eat that anytime I can see it on the menu, anytime I can find it. It's something that I think that I don't find enough, that I go out there when I see it, I have to try it. So, with the sourcing from this, and then you go through the trends with the winter and everything, how often are you changing the menu? How often does it go through that?
Well, it's a daily change. It depends on what we have. Some of the basics, obviously shrimp and sword and salmon now is fairly available. Tuna's available. Salmon's another thing. I mean, that's the thing that we've fought for years. People don't want to hurt the species. It's got to be farm raised. Oh, it's not farm raised because it's not good.
Okay.
Inconsistency. So we have a source now that a friend of mine started in Norway. He had some friends that he grew up with, and it's a very, I've used the phrase, I'm calling it ocean farmed.
Okay.
Because it's in a natural fjord where it's raised. It comes into the fish house basically, and it's packed, and it's on a plane, and it's here in 20 hours.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And
That's absolutely
it's
amazing.
very, very cold water, so it's slow growing, a lot of fat content. But those are the things I look forward to,
Right.
finding something that's really cool and exciting.
So you've seen in the 30 years, you've seen this dramatic evolution of what was liked, what wasn't liked, how it's sourced, where it's coming from, and even the generations you said of how they're sourcing it, like the families that are doing it. So, I mean, this is one of those things we got to be thankful for when we talked about locally sourced. There's all these variations from gardens to vegetables to meat and poultry, but on the seafood side, this is an industry that's been around for generations and generations. So, truthfully, as a Rhode Islander, thank you for continuing to support these people, because
Well,
it is
it's our pleasure.
it's an
I'm
important
glad they're
part.
there to allow us to do what we do. So.
Excellent.
That works.
Let's talk a little bit about the restaurant. So you said you've grown over the years, and now you're over 200 seats at Scales and Chops, right? So how is the restaurant set up? Kind of give a visual to the guests about how the restaurant is if they come down and see it.
I heard earlier somebody saying open kitchen, and that's what we are, very open, very, and that's the reasoning behind that for anybody that does it really should be that you want to show that there's nothing hidden, and you're really cooking, you're not heating and serving it from some other source and so on. So that's important, and there's a big skill set. There are not a lot of chefs or cooks that can do that under pressure and do it a la minute
That's
to
a good
order.
point. It's a very good point.
You've got to have a skill set. And I'll give you a bit of family politics. My wife cooked with me for a while. First she worked in the front of the house, and I said, oh, why don't you come? And then that didn't work too well. So I said, well.
And his wife is here supervising him today, so we knew we were in good shape when I came in and saw that his wife was here.
So I said to her, I have an idea. She said, what's that? She said, well, I'll give you your own kitchen. I'll give you your own dining room. So we opened Upscales, which is the second floor. And that was our domain. And it's still to this day, is I will cook with her, but she will not cook with me. So she was successful there. She did that, and that was a different, it was Upscales. And it was upscale. It was a different. The menus were complete. It wasn't more a la carte, which is this, you have a choice of lobster and then different vegetables maybe with it, whereas she would have complete dishes. And it was just because of the size of the space.
Right.
And then for many years we've been trying to buy the building next door, which was a very pretty small building. And we finally put that deal together, and we put it in our we call it the oyster room.
Okay.
Oysters are common. We've always had a raw bar since the get-go, but this way we're able to focus on that and some of the new trends with the draft beers, the craft beers, I should say, and things like that. So that's a nice space, and we're proud of that. And we also were able to expand on the sidewalk, which initially people said, "Oh, who wants to eat on the sidewalk?" Well, fresco dining is pretty
fresco
popular.
dining is incredibly popular.
And
now there's probably a line waiting for those tables.
Exactly, you'll be shocked. Exactly.
So, and that's thank you for the history, because that's awesome to hear that, and especially the fact that 30 years, that's just an awesome accomplishment, and in Newport, that's a standout for sure down there.
No, thank you.
So, from that position and doing it, you guys are open year round. It's not like
Yes.
we shut down for
We shut down for maintenance and repairs 4 or 5 weeks in the middle of the winter.
in the winter. Okay. And is it 7 days a week?
When we reopened was 6 days, and now we're 7 days.
So in the season, it's 7 days.
Exactly.
And then lunch and dinner?
Just dinner.
Just dinner. Okay.
We're toying with lunch and some other things in the works, but right now it's.
Really? So we got an announcement, lunch
Right-
coming
right
eventually?
now, we're just only
Oh,
dinner,
wait,
so-
we might just heard a little tip on something here.
I was told my wife is in the other room to keep my mouth shut, so.
Oh, see, she's
Thanks,
here
Rick.
keeping an eye out.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, sorry,
Thank you.
blew it, but I am going to say there's a potential there.
There's something.
That's a potential there. All right, I like to hear that. From that standpoint of doing it and down there in Newport, your food and beverage program, and you just brought me this phenomenal rosé from Provence. How important is your beverage program to your meals?
We're just involved in food, always have been since I was a kid. Grew up in New York City, around the corner from the James Beard Foundation. My mother went to classes there, so we've always been involved in. So we're always involved in food wherever we travel, and we've done a lot over all over the world. People travel and they go to museums. We travel and go to restaurants.
I'm the same
Kind
way.
of scary, but
I'm the
that's what
same
we
way.
do. So it's important. The pairing. I mean, when we first started years ago, well, your seafood, therefore it's got to be white. Now people realize, no, that's not the case.
Right.
So now it's by the weight, it's the flavors, the balance. Salmon and Pinot Noir are a classic pairing now. So we're always on that. We try to stay current. We stayed mainly Italian, then we brought some French in as you're drinking
Yeah,
now.
this is beautiful.
And then there's wine all over the world that's great. I mean, the wine industry in particular has changed.
Well, and I got to say, this, and having something like this, and knowing that you have something like this available, this I could drink this with either of these dishes.
I'm going to leave it for you.
I'm going to be in my glory. I'll be eating this all night long. So I'll be in my glory. Thank you, Chef. So a couple last questions, and these are kind of the questions that I end the segments with the interviews, is that guests really like to know some things, and I know your menu, you're saying it's changing on a frequent basis, but what is something that if someone came in now, so say they came in before the end of the summer, what's a dish that they shouldn't miss on the menu? It's a two-part question. And then the other thing is from your perspective, and you're a chef and an owner, so you're having to manage the front of the house, the back of the house. You get to hear the guests coming in, the things they like. On your perspective, what is it that you actually enjoy to be making in the kitchen and have guests try?
That's hard, very, very hard. I usually throw it back on the guests and say, what are you in the mood for? Some people say, I don't want an oily fish, or I don't want fish tasting, and so on. So I try to do things that are unique to us,
Okay.
that you can't get other places, which obviously
Absolutely.
is a grilled lobster.
Absolutely.
We do and it's evolved over the years, but we take yellowfin tuna,
Okay.
and we take the belly. Now it's known as toro. We can get into the fine tooth comb that it really should be bluefin, but we don't use that because whatever reasons people don't like that as much. But we marinate that,
Okay.
and it tastes like a flank steak if people want some taste of steak. And that's
So heavier taste.
It's a heavier taste. It's absolutely phenomenal. It just is great. And we slightly marinate it with
God, that sounds amazing.
soy and ginger and garlic. Again, I give credit to the other chef who's not here, but that was hers. I was the one who was able to source. Very hard to get because there are very few bellies. There's only 2 bellies, a small amount per fish. So
Right.
we had to source that, which is my challenge. That's nice. The clams, any dish in the pan, we do a lot. We do lobster fra diavolo, which is a lobster, calamari, mussel, if everybody wants to try different things. And we looked at it at one point where you should come in with a group of people, and then you can try and
Do
taste.
some sampling of these different
Exactly,
things.
sort of Chinese
So
stuff.
I have to say that, the sharing concept is that I'm a fanatic of that. I love coming in and being able to sample the different dishes, so I've done that in your restaurant because the friends that I came were like, you gotta try this and you gotta try that. So I love that you say that because I think that that concept is there. Well, I have to say, thank you very much for coming in. This is an awesome education and a reminder as to why a restaurant that's been around for 30 years is still a hot spot in Newport. And I think that if you haven't been to Scales and Shells, first of all, what the heck are you waiting for? Second of all, it's in a great location. It's a year-round operation. Like you said, they have some time that they close for the off-season because everybody needs a break. But this is a restaurant that you need to check out. And Chef, you've done a stupendous job. So thank you for being part of it now.
Rick, thank you very much.
Thank
It's
you,
great meeting you.
thank you for being from the same